Hello dear viewers watching RTD's English News Edition. Here are our top stories for this evening. Presentation of Economic Recovery Plan. Now international news, the Security Council adopts. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. Members of the Finance, General Economy and Planning Committee of the National Assembly, headed by Deputy Chair Michael Musare, its meetings discussed a draft financial law related to the state's corrective budget for the year 2000. The government was represented by the Minister of Budget, Mr. Abdul Karim Adam Sher, with the participation of his close meetings. The members of the committee heard the suggestions of Mrs. Mona Othman Adam at the National Assembly, Minister of Social Affairs and Solidarity, Minister of Health, Mr. Mohammed Warsam, Minister of Interior, Mr. Mumin Ahmed Sheikh, Minister of Education, Dr. Nabil Mohammed Ahmed, Minister of National Education, Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, related to the resources, means and obligations necessary for public activities and strategy in order to consolidate and enhance general economy and job creation.
Minister of Justice and Prison Affairs, responsible for human rights, Mr. Ali Hassan Bahdon, accompanied by the main officials of this ministry. After a general discussion and analysis of the various components of the draft text, the commissioners expressed their favorable opinion.
Under the chairmanship of Representative Abdurrahman Awale Yassin, members of the Standing Committee of Foreign Affairs of the National Assembly, let's watch this video.
This Sunday, July 12, 2020, the members of the Finance, General Economy and Planning Committee of the National Assembly continued the examination under the chairmanship of Deputy Sharmanke Musa of the Finance Bill number 89 of the 8th Legislature relating to the amending state budget for the financial year 2020. The government was represented by the Minister of Budget, Mr. Abdul Karim Adhan Sher, accompanied for the occasion by senior officials of the State Department. After having had an inaugural meeting last Thursday focusing on the review and discussion of the novelties and changes contained in the draft LFR 2020, today's meeting including the hearings of the following ministers: Muna Usman Adan, Minister of Social Affairs; Muhammad Warsama Deri, Minister of Health; Mu'min Ahmed Sheikh, Minister of the Interior; Dr. Nabil Mohammed Ahmed, Minister of Higher Education; Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, Minister of National Education and Vocational Training. After having reviewed the resources, means, and availabilities necessary for public actions and strategies carried out within the framework of the attributions of the various ministers, the ways and means of consolidating or strengthening the national economy, the preservation and creation of employment, the Finance Commission stressing the commendable respect observed by the Budget Department, the constitutional timetable for the filling of the LFR, the first time since the advent of the Fundamental Law of 992, favorably endorsed the LFR 2020.
And under the chairmanship of Representative Kultum Farah Said, the Legislation, Public Administration and Human Rights Committee held a working session. Let's watch this following video.
The chairmanship of the Honorable Abdurrahman Awali Yassin, the members of the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs met this Sunday, 12 July 2020, to endorse the consideration of the following provisions. Draft Law number 90/N/20/8L to ratify the financing agreement, concession for the Demerjok Power Plant project. And Draft Law number 93/N/20/8L on the ratification of the constitutional financing agreement relating to the emergency locust control response. The meeting of commission was held initially in the presence of the Ministry of Energy, in charge of National Resources, Yunus Ali Gedi, accompanied by his principal collaborators at the ministry and the attached institution, Electricity of Djibouti, known as EDD. For the second agenda inherent to locust control, the Standing Committee met with the Minister of Agriculture, Water, Fisheries, Livestock and Fishery Resources, Mr. Muhammad Ahmed Awale, and senior officials of this department. At the end of the rich and instructive exchanges, the Foreign Affairs Committee came out in favor of ratification.
The Minister of Economy and Finances, Mr. Ilyas Moussadouali, participated in a consultative meeting with the economic partners in Campiski Hotel. This meeting is related to the presenting the roadmap of the National Solidarity Development Charter for the effects of the COVID-19 epidemic on the prospects for economic growth in Djibouti. In this regard, the government has prepared a plan to confront this emerging crisis, which has had repercussions for all segments of society. The Minister and his team presented an action plan that outlines this strategy in assessing the soft loans that benefit the simple classes. All the development and civil society partners who followed with interest this strategy participated in this meeting. The meeting also talked about the financial plans, points such as health, human capital, education and entrepreneurship. On this occasion, the minister replied to all questions posed to him regarding the roadmap to the National Solidarity Charter for development of the implications of the COVID-19 epidemic on the prospects of economic growth in Djibouti.
Where we are looking at revising the socio-economic process that is happening after the COVID. COVID was a different wake-up call for all of us, that transformed quickly from a health crisis into a social and economic crisis. And I want to take this opportunity to appreciate the efforts of the government of Djibouti, led by His Excellency the President of the Republic, and the special efforts dedicated by His Excellency the Minister of Finance as the lead of the socio-economic task force within the government, for looking at an immediate response mechanism that was setting the stage. And I think we will hear during the course today about where was that in terms of the Plan National for for solidarity, which was the first solidarity call. And a special thank you note to the partners and development partners and friends of Djibouti who responded directly to the government call or through the United Nations system. And particularly a special thanks from us in UNDP for all our development partners that helped that effort.
The Minister of Economy and Finances, Mr. Yasmou Sidwale, discussed in his speech the future prospects of the national economy and the implications of the coronavirus pandemic.
Bienvenue à National cadre des consultations ce dimanche
une croissance économique forte
du monde.
de 8% sur la période
du domaine est relatif
2019-2024.
notamment à la lutte contre le terrorisme, la piraterie maritime, le maintien de
over the period of 2019 to 2024. Thanks to the various investments and achievements and Djibouti's first five-year plan achievements. It was in January that I cited these figures in our macroeconomic forecasts, which predicted a growth rate of around 2.3, with inflation under control in order of 2.5%. Naturally, we and our prices are crashing, and we continue to advocate ambitious reforms aimed at making the economy more competitive. But above all, at diversifying and making Djibouti's economy and society much more resilient. In the meantime, we have had that is now commonly referred to as the disaster of the century. These figures are no longer relevant today. Growth, if not negative, is between 0 and 1%. The phrase inflation, however, remains unbearable for me. And, of course, there are multiple challenges facing Djibouti. But beyond the phenomena of the COVID virus and its consequences, we were already in another context that was extremely sensitive, and it is growing. Unfortunately, it is somewhat the situation of instability in the region that we are already expecting to have a great impact on the economy and the future of the region. And in particular for Djibouti, which lives mainly from regional trade, it plays an active role in regional and international transactions. Why is this? I have spoken briefly about this context and these various challenges, quite simply because we were forced, not only initially, to respond very quickly to the crisis. Thank God we were able to manage as much as possible. We believe quite simply, but with great pride, that we have been able to avoid this disaster for Djibouti to this day. This disaster has been announced for all developing countries and for Africa.
The Minister of Health, Mr. Mohamed, and as well as held an important meeting this morning on fighting the coronavirus with members of the scientific committee concerned with combating this global pandemic. The meeting witnessed the participation of the Secretary General of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Salah Bounaid Trab, in addition to the Health Advisor of the President of the Republic, Dr. Abdullahi. During the meeting, all the epidemiological monitoring and control devices installed at all entry points, that is border crossing points, were evaluated in accordance with the decision to reopen land and air borders scheduled for July 17th. The meeting also discussed the entirety of the measures taken in this regard, especially. And now moving on to the international. And all the members will arrive or depart from Djibouti Airport. The Minister of Health, Mr. Mohammed, in his drawing committee stressed the effectiveness of these devices and barrier measures to prevent any further return for the coronavirus in the Republic of Djibouti. These monitoring procedures and controls can contribute effectively as a tight barrier to eliminate any risk of new pandemic. Moving on to the international news, the Muslim community of Bosnia commemorates the genocide of Srebrenica.
Muslims on Saturday memorialized the Srebrenican genocide 25 years ago, the worst killings on European soil since World War II, with more than 8,000 dead, in a memorial cut down by the coronavirus. As soon as the town of Srebrenica was taken in July 995, Serbian military leader Ratko Mladic ordered the evacuation of civilians, women, children, and the elderly, while all men of fighting age were taken prisoner. In the space of a few days, more than 8,000 men and teenagers were similarly executed before being buried in massive graves. The remains of the victims will be found in more than 80 mass graves, half of them secondary.
And now to the second international, the Council of Security of the United Nations adopted the resolutions. More with Dini Musa.
The United Nations Security Council on Saturday adopted a resolution with 12 votes in favor and 3 abstentions on the renewal of the mandate of the cross-border humanitarian mechanism in Syria. Resolution 2533 provides for the renewal of the Bab al-Hawa border crossing for a period of 12 months until July 10, 2021. China, Russia, and the Dominican Republic abstained. Zhang Zhong, permanent representative of China to the United Nations, explained his country's vote. Mr. Zhang stressed that China remained of the view that the international community should increase humanitarian assistance to the Syrian people while respecting Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
And that's all for this news. Thank you for joining us on the radio television of Djibouti, and have a good evening.